Hi, I'm Tim, welcome to our channel, and thanks for logging on. Today we have a battle between stablemates, two very dissimilar things that go about the same job in very dissimilar fashions. On the left, the Yacht-Master II, and on the right, the original Rolex Yacht-Master. Let the games begin, and by games, I mean regatta. These are countdown timers, counting down to an individual match between what's generally a sailboat race. I haven't seen a whole lot of powerboat regattas, though they exist. You can see that the Yacht-Master II is a far larger timepiece. In almost every respect, the watch accomplishes with size and complexity what the Yacht-Master I basically accomplishes with a minute hand and a bezel. So this is a huge timepiece. It's important to note that Rolex had a 10-minute countdown regatta timer on its mind for a really long time. My research indicates that the first Rolex patent for a 10-minute countdown timer was filed in the US in 1989, and while the Yacht-Master II launched in 2007, the steel model followed in 2013, and the dial you see here, the specific variant on my wrist, was revised for 2017 with the polished white gold indices, white gold hands, and Mercedes style hours. So this is the most refined version of something long in coming. In fact, the first Yacht-Master I launched in 1992, so in some ways this watch has been in the works for as long as its less complicated brethren, but you can see it is very much a watch of the modern era with a 44mm case. On my 16cm wrist, it is huge. It's not thick at 13.9mm thick. You can actually fit this one underneath a cuff. Lug-to-lug, it's big, 50mm, and if you measure it end link to end link across the wrist, it's a colossal 57.4. So this is a big watch, though it doesn't wear quite as large as the link-to-link measurement would suggest. The measurement between the lugs is 21mm, but I've literally never seen one of these on an aftermarket strap. I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but it is uncommon. The bracelets on these two watches are very similar. Polished center links, upscale finish. You can see the satin sides, removable links fixed by screws. Both of the watches, curiously, feature the full-blown Submariner, Sea Dweller, and Daytona style clasp, which is to say there's a clamshell lock outside, and then when you go inside, you can see that there is a beak and a hook system, a lift lock, so it's actually a vertical trigger. You have that trigger locking it in place. You can't actually pull it open that way, so you have to unlock it. It's a very secure system. Fully finished inside, you can see that it features 3 divots drilled internally, so you can change the anchoring point of the bracelet inside the clasp. And then you have Rolex Easy Link, which you can see there's a hollow in the inner link, gives you 5mm of tool-free adjustment, so you can take in or take out the equivalent of one sizable link without actually using a tool. Decent adjustability built into both, and of course the security of the clamshell on top of the lift lock. The case band should be familiar because it's almost exactly what you'll get in a Yacht-Master I. I'm going to actually go sapphire to sapphire here to show you that the two watches are most similar in profile, where you can see that the 2 is really just a nightmare scale version of the 1. It's not the super case that you know from the hardcore Rolex sports watches, the GMTs, the Sea Dwellers, the Subs, the Explorer 2s. This is very much the Yacht-Master in profile, just bigger. Now the bezel is extraordinary because it features a giant platinum-filled ceramic insert, which is wonderfully scratch resistant. All of the numerals, the text Yacht-Master II, all of those are platinum fills, but it's also part of the movement. If you wanted to, for example, program an interval between 1 minute and 10 for countdown, you would turn this bezel 90 degrees, and now you have a system that allows you to program. Now watch this. You can see that the chronograph minutes hand, the red triangle, is already at 0. A lot of folks ask me what happens to the chronograph when it reaches 0, and my answer, as I just demonstrated, is that the seconds hand continues to circulate. It basically acts as constant seconds, and you can regard it as such if you prefer not to work with a subdial. The watch is also a flyback, so as you can see, it will actually fly back or fly forward to the nearest minute. Whether that minute is preceding or succeeding will determine where the minute hand actually goes. Of course, the red hand for the seconds always reverts to the index at 12. The dial is chalk white, which is to say it's a matte white. It's not glossy, it's not gleaming, it doesn't look like enamel. It's designed to be a bit muted and a bit more discreet than it would be if finished with gloss. Inside, caliber 4161, which debuted with the steel Yacht-Master II in 2013. It's tougher, more durable, and more reliable than the original 4160. 3-day power reserve, COSC chronometer, 100 meters water resistant, vertical clutch column wheel chrono, all of the same stuff you get in the Yacht-Master with the full bridge, the free spring index, the overcoil hairspring, and anti-magnetic Cerachrom blue. Here you just get a longer power reserve, the flyback, the programmability of the chronograph, which I guess I'll demonstrate to you real quick, and then the movement's ability to remember the time that you program in. And that's how you program it, just like that. Turn the bezel back, and now the watch is ready to operate as a chronograph. Okay, let's jump over to the Yacht-Master 1. Now that you've seen how the programming and the regatta timer system works, let's take a look at the 1. Okay, Yacht-Master 1. The Yacht-Master 1 was originally conceived in the late 1980s as a next-generation Rolex Submariner. And in the course of planning, Rolex liked the design that it proposed, but at the end of the day, it realized even as it embraced its luxury mission in the 90s, it couldn't quite turn the old utilitarian sub into a pure posh watch. So that design for the next-gen sub became the Yacht-Master. 1992, the first Yacht-Master, the model on my wrist launched at Bezel World 2016 with the dark rhodium dial featuring nice pops of cyan accenting, as well as the solid platinum bezel, stainless steel case, stainless steel bracelet, all of this 40 millimeters in diameter, considerably slimmer than a sub. A sub is about 12.6 millimeters thick. This is 11.5, so it's a more graceful case shape, and it is also a slimmer case. The watch is 47.5 millimeters lug-to-lug, and if you include the solid end links, it's 51.1 millimeters with a 20 millimeter spacing between the lugs, and I can imagine this one being set on an aftermarket strap like a Rubber Bee or an Everest more than I can the Yacht-Master II. I do want to call attention to the grace of the case. You can see that this is not the case that you find on a contemporary Submariner. It is beautifully tapered. It has a sculpted compound curved side, and I actually have a current generation sub present to demonstrate that. You can see what the sub looks like in detail. It's a bit more severe, a bit more industrial. You can see it's squared off and sheer, whereas the Yacht-Master is a bit more sinuous and lithe. It's graceful, almost cat-like in its profile, in a way that the sub no longer is. So that's a wonderful little comparison side by side. Zoom out a bit, get everything back into focus. So the Yacht-Master 1 is essentially the classic Rolex rotating bezel sports watch in 40 millimeters, but with upscale touches. It has the same clasp you see on the Yacht-Master 2, so I'm not going to spend too much time on it. You've got the clamshell, you've got the lift lock, you've got the 3 interior divots, and you've got Easy Link, so all that works the same way. Now, you can see on the dial side, the watch features an exquisite sunburst. This is something you won't find on a sub. A sub will be all lacquered, or in the case of the two-tone, you'll have a blue sunburst. But this dark rhodium finish is deliciously exquisite, in the same size as a sub, but surrounded by platinum and beautifully clothed in those cyan accents at center. The oversized indices paved the way for the modern sub. The Yacht-Master was the first to feature the maxi dial with bigger indices, which is why these really pop off the rhodium base. Now, 3135, 48-hour power reserve, COSC chronometer, 100 meters water resistant, just like you'll find on the Yacht-Master 2. Let's talk about the merits and advantages of each watch, starting with the deuce. Okay. The Yacht-Master 2. First and foremost, if you've got that huge wrist, this is the option. A lot of folks will say that they want a watch that pops. If they're buying a Rolex, they want it to have a certain level of, shall we say, conspicuous consumption factor. And for better or for worse, this is the watch that will announce to the world exactly what you're wearing in no uncertain terms. Technology, 70-hour power reserve. This watch has it. Memory and programming for the countdown timer. This watch has it. Flyback or fly forward chronograph capability. This watch has it. On a technological basis, this caliber 4161 takes it, so it has the nerd factor as well as the jock factor with the wrist presence. Now the timepiece is also rare. Everyone in your office may have a Rolex, but I'm willing to bet none of them have this Rolex, which is to say you get the Rolex quality and Rolex integrity, Rolex reliability, Rolex resale strength, but you don't get the anonymity and the bandwagon factor that comes with Rolex ownership. It's also important to note that because this is not a common Rolex model, it's got a little bit of an iconoclastic factor. So if you're a Rolex skeptic who likes big watches, you might be inclined to buy this precisely because it is not one of the classic Rolex models, and in some ways that's a bit subversive to Rolex guys. The timepiece is also one that will save you math. You program a 7-minute countdown, and there's no need to align the bezel and then figure out which one of these anonymous and largely undifferentiated hashes is the 7th. It's not a big deal, but it might be relevant if you actually use one of these watches for its intended regatta countdown purpose. Now, let's talk about the one. What do you have going on here? Well, you have greater elegance, there's no doubt. Just look at the difference in thickness. You have one watch that is 11.5 millimeters thick, one that's almost 14. No comparison. Both of them can be cuffed, but this is simply the one to wear if you want something that's also graceful without the space taken up. I will mention that this timepiece has a superb and universal fit. 47.5 millimeters lug-to-lug means this watch will work on a wrist as small as 13.5 centimeters circumference. So if you do want a unisex option, or you prefer a more discreetly sized watch, or you just have a smaller wrist, this is the one to buy. It's also important to note that this better exemplifies the classical Rolex aesthetic than the Yacht-Master II. And by that I mean it's a 40 millimeter rotating bezel, three-hand Rolex with a date. Think Submariner, think Sea Dweller. It looks like the GMT. It looks like, well, let's face it, the look you associate with a Rolex is the look that the Yacht-Master I has. The Sub, the Sea Dweller, the GMT, the chronograph, the original Yacht-Master. This is part of the club. This is an iconic Rolex, whereas the Yacht-Master II is more of a peripheral Rolex. Also, if you have the ability to read hash marks and you don't need the shorthand of the Yacht-Master II's calibrated scale, guess what? Downstream maintenance costs for this particular regatta timer will be much lower than on the Yacht-Master II. It's also worth noting that this watch feels just as rich, despite the fact that it costs less. You have the platinum bezel, you have the cyan accents, you have the dark rhodium sunburst of the dial, and the clean, cool, almost austere grayscale aesthetic. This watch feels rich. It also feels a bit patrician, almost as though the Yacht-Master II is the new money trying too hard, and the Yacht-Master I is cool, quiet confidence. It's been there, it's done that. I will also mention that the conventional bezel is actually more useful. It's easier to read at a glance, and let's say you want to time something longer than 60 minutes, advantage Yacht-Master I. The slimness doesn't need any explanation. It just makes the watch more wearable and easier to cuff. And it's a better store of value. Let's talk price. The Yacht-Master II new costs $18,750. Now if you buy it pre-owned, it's going to be about $16,800 to about $17,500, so it loses a little bit on average. Right now, this particular Yacht-Master, if you were to buy it new, it would be about $11,800. That's what it costs new, and it sells between $11,000 and $12,000, which means you can buy this watch, enjoy it for a while, sell it, and really pay nothing but the tax on the watch. This is a timepiece that just offers more in total than the technically impressive and visually imposing Yacht-Master II. If you've got the big wrist and you're into tech and you're a little bit of an iconoclast who's not into the Rolex look, Yacht-Master II. But if you're me, you're going for purity of line, elegance, versatility, and the classical Rolex experience, you want the Yacht-Master I. Guys, let me know in the box below which one of these two Yacht-Masters masters your heart. Yacht-Master II, Yacht-Master. Yacht-Master II, Yacht-Master. Note that neither watch's timing instrument is visible by night. I can see the dial of the Yacht-Master I, but I can't see its bezel. I can see the dial of the Yacht-Master II, but not its countdown index. No advantage. This is a tie.